first up is going to be our Patreon pick for the week, Cube 2.
Oh, yeah.
Cube 2.
Hypercube.
As requested by Lava Skin.
Whoa, thank you, Lava Skin.
Now, boys, Cube 2. This film... What the fuck do you even say about this movie? So, like, you know, it's another situation like the previous Cube movie. You got a bunch of people who are in a cube, okay? It's just a bunch... There's so many fucking people this time around as well. I don't know why they got such a big cast for this one and fucking
Isn't
Cube
it the same
2.
number as the last one?
I don't think so. Because at the very least, they keep them around significantly longer in this one as well. Yeah. Whereas, like, you know, in the first one, they really started chugging away at them pretty quick. Yeah. Anyway... Cube 2, we've got our main character. She's some fucking woman. Then we've also got, like, some crazy guy, okay? He's a PI. He's in the cube to investigate where some fucking lady went. Then we've also got some blind girl. She's blind and Asian. Then we've also got, like, some tech boy. And then we've got some hot girl. Then we've also got some nice guy who I thought was going to be a pedophile, but he's not. He's just a nice guy. And I think there's some other characters. Whatever. They don't fucking matter. There's some old lady or some bullshit. So, they start walking around the cube. They don't know where they're going. They're sometimes end up in the same room and stuff. It's weird. There are all these weird inscriptions on the cube. They realize it's a fucking tetrahedron or some fucking bullshit where it's a 3D, 4D cube, some shit. It's a hypercube, okay? It's the hypercube, and it's being linked with different dimensions. That sounds cool, but it's not, because it's fucking boring and poorly implemented. And so eventually, they start running into other versions of themselves. What? That's crazy. They see them die. They see themselves die. Whoa, that's crazy. And they start to get, like, you know, disbanded from each other. They start going off into different cubes, and they can't find each other anymore. That's crazy. But then they start finding alternate versions of each other, and the PI guy, he starts going crazy. He starts murdering the same guy over and over again. It's crazy. And then eventually the cube just collapses and the movie ends.
The end. Let me give a quick temperature check.
This movie sucks, Tanner.
Do you like it more than the first Cube?
Absolutely not.
I think this movie does everything worse than the first original movie.
Interesting.
I thought this movie was significantly better than the last one.
What?
Yeah, the acting was way better.
There are two sides on the Guapish podcast. Cube 2 enjoyers and Cube 2 haters.
I enjoy Cube 2 slightly more.
Oh my god.
Than Cube 1.
You thought this was worse than the acting in the first one was so disjointed and just not good.
The acting in this one was atrocious.
It wasn't that bad. What are you talking about?
The fucking blind girl was the worst.
The blind girl was pretty rough. Let's go over the like aesthetic differences here. I want to touch on that real quick.
Okay.
Obviously, this one is much lighter. It's all blinding white. It's clean, and whatever the other one was much more industrial and dingy. I feel like I'm misremembering this. Were the people in their street clothes in the last one, or were they all wearing like?
They're all wearing like some uniforms.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't know how I feel about that difference.
I'm not a huge fan of it. I think the biggest downside for this movie with me is just the lack of mystery element to it, which may seem like a controversial take because they really try to go into it. But they go so hard on the sci-fi bullshit with this movie that it just makes nothing believable at all to me. Like, the first movie was very... Like, you know, the setting is ridiculous, but you can kind of see it based in reality in some manner. And that definitely helped it a lot. This movie does not have that at all. It's just some fucking goofy sci-fi bullshit, and I just could not ever, like, get into it. And, that's... It was rough.
Now, in my opinion, strangely, I think this one actually made more sense than the last one.
How?
I will agree.
How is that possible?
Specifically, I think their explanation for why the cube exists made more sense in this one. Because I feel like the explanation is actually the same in both movies, where they're just like, someone had the idea, and it kind of just... They fucking made it, so whatever. At least with this one, you can be like, oh, someone had the idea, and it's something that seems, like, literally impossible to do, so that's why they made it. Whereas the last one, it's like, I mean, yeah, you could build a big physical cube, but why would you do that? At least with this one, it's like, hey, we figured out this weird sci-fi bullshit that we think is possible.
Well,
which
Tanner,
I
the
think
first
is a
one
more...
was the intrigue, we don't know why it was built. It's crazy, dude. Like, well, what the fuck is the deal with this thing? There's a little mystery going on there, man. Isn't that fine, dude? Isn't it okay to have a little mysticism surrounding the idea of this?
I feel like we came to the conclusion they didn't do that very satisfyingly, though.
They didn't.
But it was still better
Which is
than
why I
this
didn't
shit.
rate it well, but it's done better there.
Well, but this being a sequel, like, we have the knowledge from the last movie, so we understand that there's a bunch of random people in this cube. We don't know why they're there. We don't know what their connection is to the cube. We don't know why whoever created it did. So they're just there to figure out how to escape and who created it. And, that's it. Like, there's less mystery in the sequel because we know what happened in the first movie.
But these are completely separate, like, objects, so I don't think it's really that comparable.
Yeah.
They are, but also, like, I'm trying to... This movie maybe I'm wrong in saying this movie very closely followed the same formula from the first movie. As far as casting and plot goes, because you still had the crazy guy, you still had, like, this... The old lady had dementia, I guess would be like the kid who had the mental disorder in the first movie. And you have like some, I don't know who else it would be. Maybe the blind girl or something, I don't know.
Why did this movie hate Jerry so much?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, the guy just going back and forth, just killing this man and eating him, what the fuck?
Well, to be fair, though, he also looked like he killed Becky a lot, though, too, because he had a lot of her, like, badge things clipped to him by the end of the movie.
True, but they also, like, we only saw one Becky die. We saw multiple Jerrys die.
Well, we did, but also, yeah, the whole thing with the badges. Also, his, like, phrase was like, I'm so hungry. Like, he said that to literally every single person he ever found.
Is that not more entertaining than anything in Cube 1? That this guy, fucking spent apparently decades, like, murdering and eating people in the cube, and then he shows up at the end as an old man?
I think the idea of that's funny.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea. They still don't really do much with it, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's executed very well, but I like the idea of it.
I thought it was really cool when they're in the final room and she, like, stabs him in the eye and then turns around and there's him as an old man with his eye stabbed. I thought that was neat. I thought that was playing with the concept in an interesting way.
I will say, though, too, well, would you guys say it's bad movie writing when you introduce a concept such as quantum physics that people aren't going to understand and just expect that to add to the mysticism of the movie, or do you think that's bad?
Not inherently.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of interpreted. It's like, okay, quantum physics, not everybody here is going to know what quantum physics is. It seems like this old lady is the only one here who knows it, even though she's got dementia or something. But I mean, one thing that I don't know if I was disappointed with this or not, because the first Cube movie had a lot of, can't remember the name of the game, but basically in the second movie, there were, like, no traps, basically. Like, the rooms didn't have any death gimmicks in them. Like, some of them, the time was warped where it was slowed down or sped up, or, whatever, and then there was that weird, like, not even invisible wall, it was kind of like the temporal wall or whatever that, like, would just vaporize people, I guess, if it touched them. Like, that, I figured that would be, like, a decent, threat, but they were kind of just nonchalantly jumping in and out of rooms, which, again, I don't know if that's, like, a bad or a good thing for me, because I just remember in the first movie, they very heavily, like, emphasized, like, hey, be careful going into these rooms, they could kill you, and in this movie, it was just kind of them. Their only goal was to, like, figure out how to get out. So
That's another massive downside I actually have with this movie, that being that there really just isn't nearly as much of a sense of tension, especially just comparing it to the first one. Like, the first movie, because there was just that constant looming threat of traps that could literally just kill them all, there was massive tension throughout just the entire thing, and then obviously it, like, really ramped up with the character drama about them trying to escape and, like, the big, fight at the end. This movie, I feel like, really just didn't have that tension at all, just because there was very few traps. There was, like, three specific traps, I think, and none of them were even really that dangerous to them. Like, the only reason people died to them is for stupidity, and then, of course, Jerry, when he got ripped apart by the fucking... the ball thing, because they just didn't understand it. But, I really just didn't feel any sense of tension at all. There was no, like, atmosphere to this movie. Just, like, the whole, like, setting as well. Even like just them wearing their street clothes, it really just took away from like the horror element too. So like this movie just felt like far less atmospheric. I didn't feel like any sense of tension. Of course, when people are dying and then just being brought back because the Hypercube, that completely kills all sense of like, oh, they can die, but who fucking cares? There's like a million or infinite amounts of them still in the cube, so what the fuck does any of this matter in the end?
Yeah,
there also doesn't really feel like there's much sense of progression in this film either. Like in the first movie, they were constantly moving, they were trying to get out of the cube, they're trying to figure out exactly how to escape it. In this movie, they were kind of trying to do the same thing. They didn't really, though. The cube just eventually collapses in on itself, and that's the solution. They just had to wait, and eventually it would end.
I will say...
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say is, I guess I will say this movie very heavily like I mentioned before, this movie very heavily crutched on quantum physics and the lack of knowledge on them, because they just expected us to be like, I don't know what's going on, maybe this stuff's happening because quantum physics, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the quote-unquote threat, whether there was, visibly threat there or not, was just like the quantum threats, I guess if you want to call it that, like the time speed up or whatever, or like the weird cube thing that turned into a blender or something. Because I think the threat was quantum physics, I just think it wasn't very easily grasped because like we didn't have a concept of how dangerous that environment was.
Why were all of the watches set to the same time?
Because they explained it's multiple parallel dimensions side by side with one another in the same area.
That just hit me about why the people that were fucking died is because they're like fucking, but like in super speed, so like it sped up their aging process, and that's what killed them. I didn't get that at all when watching the movie, but it makes sense.
No, I didn't. It took me until after
it's filmed
ended.
very strangely. I do agree with all the points you guys were just making in terms of like, oh, it doesn't have the tension or the atmosphere of the last one.
But you just don't care.
I don't think that really is a point against it, because I think frankly, like, it's an entirely different genre from the first Cube. It's not trying to be a tension thing. It's more like a straightforward, like, sci-fi mystery, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fair. The first movie definitely leaned a lot more on horror and thriller than this movie, where this is mostly like a sci-fi adventure thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is weaker overall, which is why I listed as like a negative. I don't think it like stands up in that method, because it's mostly just because it's fucking boring. Like, I think a big reason why I like the first movie any amount is because the setting was interesting and there was always that constant risk that made it, at minimum, just like entertaining, just like what's going to happen next. But this movie didn't have that at all, so I was mostly just bored throughout the entirety of it, frankly.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any other thoughts on it at all?
What do we think of the ending?
Yeah, how'd you feel about the ending?
The ending was very open-ended, and they also were like, oh, Cube 3? And I'm like, please no.
How was it open-ended? They shot her in the head.
Yeah, well, they seemed like they needed information from inside the cube, which they were going to take and create another cube, but that, I guess, could be a definitive ending. Yeah. She was sent in there to... Is that what you
think it was?
Yeah, because she got... So, the blind chick was like the one superhuman person or whatever they were all talking about throughout the entire movie. She got the necklace off of her, which I don't know what other significance that would be besides maybe that's like some kind of memory drive or something stupid. Because they put it in that like little floating plastic whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, did you get what we needed? And she dropped it in, and then she saw things she shouldn't have seen or she can't leave knowing or whatever, so they killed her, and they're going to take that to go do some kind of government bullshit with it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's what I
do have to wonder why they kill her when they've got all these like random soldiers standing around as guards. Why are they allowed to know what the thing is and not be killed?
And also, like, by killing her, that just like cuts off really the entire our entire investment into the film whatsoever. It's like, okay, I guess all of the characters are dead now, and they're just gonna make another cube or some shit, I guess.
Nothing meant anything.
Yeah.
To be fair, we don't know if, like, the kid from the last movie actually... Like, he got out, but we don't know what happened to him after that, to be fair, so...
Yeah, at least we don't know what happened to him, Dylan.
They should have brought him in and been, like, the fucking hacker person.
Yeah, maybe.
The first movie you could have absolutely looked at, and I definitely did when I was initially looking at it, as, like, a big metaphor for society or something like that. You could look at the movie not, like, just at face value of what it is, but, like, what the characters and what they represent. and then that guy leaving at the end. There's like interpretations you could do with that movie that make it interesting too. I didn't really feel that with this movie either, which is another downside. There really wasn't any like moral quandaries I thought this movie was trying to represent at all. It was all pretty face value.
Yeah, they kind of just try and rehash that same idea from the previous film of like, we don't know what we're working on. I guess it ended up making this big other thing. It's weird, right? I just made these doors.
And for that, you deserve to die and be eaten, Jerry. Fuck you, Jerry.
Exactly.
It was very funny
Jerry.
how often they said shit like, fuck you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Everyone is so mean in this movie.
Yeah. I think my favorite character in this movie was literally just the computer guy, because he just constantly had those like random like one-liners where he just gets shut down or something. You could just see him in the background pacing around all mad.
Jack's really kin to that guy.
He was like the only character I liked in this movie, to be completely honest.
Damn.
All right, now Tanner,
Yes.
you gave the previous Cube an A,
Yes.
and you liked this movie more. So where are you putting it?
Unfortunately, this is a scenario where I've realized I need to downgrade the first Cube at some point.
Yeah.
Because I did enjoy this movie more, but it doesn't deserve an A+.
Does it deserve an A?
It doesn't, actually, which is
Damn.
crazy. I need to...
Damn.
Your senses.
Yeah, I need to knock Cube down a couple pegs at some point. I'm gonna put Cube 2 Hypercube. I'm gonna go a B+ on this one.
Okay. Dylan, how about you for other positive person on this film before Jackson and I just shit on it?
Stand by the ranking I gave it. After this discussion, I'm kind of pondering on my rank that I'm giving. I am going to give it I'll give it a C+.
A C+, whoa.
That is a little bit lower than what I originally ranked it at, but
What was your original ranking?
it was
C-.
a B.
Honestly, Jackson,
Wait.
I was surprised that you gave the original Cube a C+. Where are you giving this one?
I give this one an F+.
Jesus
God
Christ.
damn.
I didn't think it was unwatchable.
I think it was really, really bad and
Jesus.
boring. The CGI was awful. The acting was awful. The
No, the
fucking
CGI
camera work was
was
awful.
terrible,
I think the idea behind this movie is just so much weaker. It was just really fucking boring. I honestly really did not see anything of value in this movie. I would never watch it again.
Jesus.
Like, the first movie I could like show somebody that movie, and I think it'd be interesting and it could kind of be fun. This second movie, absolutely not.
Interesting. Okay.
Ego had a much more negative view on the first movie, so I'm curious to hear what yours is.
Also an F+. This movie had tits. That's its only saving grace, and they were on screen for like half a second.
Yeah.
Fuck this
I
movie.
forgot
It did
about
have
that part. I forgot about that. It's funny.
They should have had the
Alrighty.
hacker chick show her rack.
Right?
The hacker
Alright,
chick.
that puts Cube 2 Hypercube at a C-.
Crazy.
I do gotta ask Dylan, you got that you called her like a superhuman or something. She was a hacker.
Whatever, man.
Okay.
They didn't really explain her. It's like by the
They
time
did.
they revealed like who she was,
Anyway.